Not a single official report came out that morning. No statement from HYB, no media upload, no staff clarification. But it is precisely in that silence that this story grows. Slow, vague, but feels too real to ignore. At a quiet hotel in Japan, Taehyung and Jungkook go through one sleepless night. Not because of the party, not because of the schedule, and not because of physical fatigue. The night was awake because of something much deeper. The lights of the hotel rooms remain on until the early hours of the morning. The curtains of the window were only slightly open, revealing the light of the city that was constantly moving, as if the world had never stopped, even though the two figures in the room were wrestling with their own thoughts. Taehyung sat on the edge of the bed, his back against the wall, his hands clutching the phone that he hadn't noticed for hours. Jungkook was by the window, standing still, looking out without really seeing anything. The night began with an awkward silence. After a long day, after a trip that was not recorded in the public agenda, they should have rested. But as soon as the door closed, something changed. There was no light laughter as usual, no small joke to break the mood. All there was a long breath, evasive gazes, and the feeling that there were too many things that had never been said. According to sources familiar with the situation, Taehyung was the first to realize that sleep that night would not come easily. He tried to lie down, close his eyes, but his thoughts kept running about the tight schedule, about the spotlight that never goes out, about the emotional distance that later felt even though they were physically so close. Jungkook is the same. He tried to calm down, listening to slow music, but each note actually brought back old memories and questions that he had kept. Around midnight, the silence was finally broken. Not by a loud voice, not by an emotional outburst, but by one simple sentence that Taehyung uttered in a low, almost quivering voice. The sentence was not recorded, but the impact was felt. Jungkook turned from the window, staring at Taehyung for the first time that night with an expression that couldn't be hidden. Tired, honest, and burdened. The conversation that followed lasted a long time. Very long. They sat face to face, sometimes silent for a few minutes before one of them spoke again. The topics are disorganized. About trainee times, about pressure as global icons, about how the world sees them as symbols, while behind the scenes they're just two human beings trying to survive. Jungkook admits that he often feels that he must always be strong, always calm, even when he is unsure of himself. Taehyung, in a more reflective way, expresses a sense of loneliness that actually appears in the crowd. The clock keeps moving. 2 o'clock in the morning passed unnoticed. 3 o'clock in the morning followed, and the room lights were still on. No attempt to sleep. It's as if the two agreed without saying it, that tonight is the only safe space. They have no cameras, no staff, no expectations. Only naked honesty and feelings are finally released. There was a moment when Jungkook lowered his head, his hands clenched, his voice barely audible. There was also a moment when Taehyung was silent for a long time, staring at the floor, before finally sighing deeply as if he had just let go of the burden of years. There is no dramatic crying, but there are teary eyes. There are no superfluous hugs, but the distance between them is slowly narrowing. By dawn, the city outside began to change color. The dark night sky slowly turned pale, a sign of the morning soon to come. They're still awake. Jungkook ends up sitting on the floor, leaning against the bed, while Taehyung stays in position from start. Fatigue begins to be felt, but not physical fatigue, rather emotional fatigue, which, oddly enough, brings relief. The same source mentions that by 5 in the morning, the conversation stopped by itself. Not because there was nothing more to say, but rather because they both finally understood one important thing. Not all problems had to be solved that night, but at least everything had been recognized. And recognition, in their world, is a rare and precious thing. When morning really comes, Taehyung and Jungkook don't sleep. They just lie down for a while, looking at the ceiling, letting the body rest, even though the eyes remain open. Outside, the world prepares to live a new day, unaware that in one hotel room, 2 of the world's biggest stars have passed a night they will probably remember forever. Until now, there is no official confirmation of what exactly happened that night. But one thing became clear from the small changes observed afterwards. The way they looked at each other, the way they walked side by side in a more comfortable rather than awkward silence. As if something had been realigned. That sleepless night did not generate scandals, did not provoke controversy. But that's precisely why it's important. Behind the glitter of the industry, behind hectic schedules and relentless spotlight, Taehyung and Jungkook remind that even global icons need one night to be honest, awake, and truly listen to each other. After the sun really rose and the morning light penetrated the curtains of the hotel room, the atmosphere between them changed into a distinct silence. It was no longer a silence full of tension, but a silence that felt lighter, as if the long night had cleared something that had been settling. Taehyung got up first, walked slowly to the window, opening the curtains a little wider. The light touched his face, revealing a tired but calm expression. Jungkook followed her with a look, saying nothing, but clearly reading the change. There were no plans for that morning. The schedule that was supposed to wait seemed distant, almost unreal. They sat next to each other, each holding a cup of coffee that began to cool. Jungkook finally smiled a slight smile that's rarely seen these days. "At least we're honest," he said quietly. Taehyung nodded, as if that simple sentence summed up their entire sleepless night. Fatigue finally demanded its due. Not with dizziness or falling emotions, but rather with a heavy body and a slowed down mind. They don't sleep well, just take short, alternating naps, making sure each other isn't really alone. Time was running strangely that morning, slow, but also too fast. When they finally prepared to leave the room, there were no noticeable changes that the cameras or the hotel staff could catch. But for both of them, a fine line has been crossed. The night became the boundary between painful silence and mutual understanding silence. Not all wounds heal, not all answers are found, but at least they know one thing. The relationship still exists, is alive, and is still worth keeping. In the hallway of the hotel, their steps sounded in harmony. There are no long conversations, just the occasional brief look is enough to say a lot. The world outside awaits with all its demands, but that sleepless night has given them something that cannot be bought or planned. Honesty that is born in the quietest of times. And perhaps precisely because no one knows exactly what happened in that hotel room, his story will continue to live on as a whisper. A night in which Taehyung and Jungkook choose to stay awake, not against fatigue, but for the sake of saving something far more important than sleep itself.